I just realised how they've gaslighted my life and how McGreevy's got away with all his crimes. It all comes down to the invented brain injury that didn't exist and there was never any evidence of it. And the mental illness that didn't exist. Those fundamentals were then used to have my life placed under medical professionals in relation to brain injury and mental illness that didn't exist. But McGreevy was manipulating all the medical professionals and getting me placed on medications by changing an oversensitive nervous system to chronic pain, then using chronic pain to implement brain-altering medications that literally, they had me like a zombie actually. And some of them were pretty fucking serious, like Prozac for chronic pain. That left me suicidal for about 36 hours. It was the worst thing I could ever... But I didn't see everything. I just had to go and prove I didn't have a brain injury, which I shouldn't have had to anyway, because there wasn't even a claim form for it. Prove I didn't have a mental illness. I never had a mental problem in my life. Or very placid. And then prove that I didn't make threats to kill, which was easy enough. I just got the transcript from Telecom of the message that I left in relation to a case manager compromising me. And there was no threats on it of any kind. Now, keeping all that in mind, my life has always been kept on the line of attack. When I proved I didn't have a brain injury, proved I didn't kill or threaten to kill anybody, proved that I had no violence or any criminality in my life. But the medical expert involved, Rhys Tapsell, was covering up everything I was telling him of what I was being subjected to by McGreevy. And then Ailsa Duffy came in. She wanted to send me back to Rhys Tapsell, and I said, go fuck yourself. I'm not going back to somebody who has literally covered up a mountain of crimes. You want to send me back there after you do your Queen's Counsel investigation report to the same person so he can cover his own fucking arse? No way. It's never going to happen. So that didn't happen. So all the psychiatrists got to fuck. But Ailsa Duffy didn't write up the facts of the criminality and the criminal intent behind the actions because they weren't addressing my injuries and the chronic, well, the spinal injury that they didn't even diagnose yet, and the extreme fatigue and the muscle wasting and everything else. They put everything on the chronic pain. But McGreevy continued to attack my sanity and claim I had a brain injury and claim I had a mental illness even after the Queen's Counsel investigation, even after it was proven I didn't threaten anybody, I didn't have a brain injury, I didn't have a mental illness. He just kept attacking while he was having me stalked, harassed, criminally harassed all the way through it. So literally, this guy has fucking carried out an act of state terrorism on my life. A criminal, I mean, he said, you're talking about 1,000 criminal abusive actions because everybody's working off the same thing. They call it gaslighting. I call it state terrorism. So literally, I'm in court now for an alleged threat to kill, right? We're not going to go there. When we say the end justifies the means, call it a fucking act of God, whatever you want to call it. The fact remains, I'm going to stand up for myself, and I'm not going to be a slave trade action for anybody. And as it was, they were telling a GP, do nothing, we just want to pay him. So there was no rehabilitation, there was nothing getting done. All the onus gets laid on me to fund public-private criminal prosecutions or sue them while they're funding their crimes with taxpayers' money. And keeping my life under their line of attack and running my life as an act of slavery, not as an act of rehabilitation. So the criminal intent was for McGreevy to wear me down mentally, psychologically, emotionally, physically and financially, which led to leaving me with post-traumatic stress and then leaving me with a neck injury because the cops attacked me in the back of a police car back in 2007, declaring it an act of war against me. Now, when you put all this into perspective, I have to live this every fucking day. So, now we're going to go into court, and I'm up for threats to kill, while these terrorists are running slavery in my life. They're murdering my life, and they're getting away with it. This guy deliberately went out to invent a brain injury and a mental illness as part of his criminal gaslighting on my life, and the Queen's Counsel, Ailsa Duffy, missed that. And David Hepburn, my fucking advocate, missed that. Nah, that's not on. That's just, yeah. you see, things like that make me believe that David Hepburn was in on it. And he knew exactly what he was doing. And he was helping them turn my life into an act of slavery, not an act of rehabilitation. And keep me onto that line of attack. So, I don't believe anything David Hepburn has to say anymore, to be perfectly honest. He's told me that many fucking lies, it's unreal. And I'm starting to realise that everything that he was supposed to be doing at the Queen's Counsel investigation, he did nothing. He just let the Queen's Counsel write whatever the fuck she like. And he let her cover up every crime in this case, including the false declaration he made in my name that started all this conflict in the first place. Anyway, it's a bloody joke. So here I am, 20 years into it, and I'm now starting to see clearly that this was an act of state terrorism, and the intention was to murder my life, and to provoke me to the point where I would retaliate. But I was never an aggressive person, so I didn't have to retaliate. I was always a person who went on the retreat. Well, I retreated so far to where they backed me right into a corner, into my home, where I never go out, I never do nothing. I'm not getting any medical and treatment needs for my injuries. I'm not getting any investigations for the post-traumatic stress. I'm not getting nothing. I'm getting nothing, not even physio or anything else. So I struggle every day, and they're happy with that. The reason we're in court is because I wasn't willing to be a slave trade action. And for a GP to tell me that ACC told her to do nothing, they just want to pay me. So, that's the bottom line from me. And I'm done with this shit. And now I'm on to the third lawyer for the alleged threat to kill case. The first lawyer, she ran away from it, claiming conflict of interest. A load of bullshit. She just didn't have a clue what she was doing. The second lawyer, he tried to gaslight me. I told him to go fuck himself. And the third lawyer, they went on to court, and the court started arguing about psychological issues. These people are literally doing everything behind my back still. And since the court case, I've sent, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 emails to my lawyer asking him for updates, asking him for insight, asking him what date the court case was, even though I was relieved from it. I wanted to hear what they had to say. Like, I haven't heard a word they've had to say in the court yet. They all leave me standing outside, so they sit and they discuss everything. I just walk in there and they just, you know what I mean? I get to hear nothing. It's a fucking joke. It's like the Secret fucking Service. You don't get to hear anything that they're even discussing in the courtroom. So, that's just the overall act of state terrorism that the New Zealand government is running in this case, and the Crown and the government. So there you go. So now we're in the biggest Mexican standoff, criminally blackmailing, criminally holding to ransom, slave trade action that anybody could ever find themselves in. And to be perfectly honest, no lawyer even wants to touch this case with a barge pole, because I asked too many questions and I've got too much ammunition against them. But this is how the terrorists in positions of power get away with their crimes, because no one polices their crimes, or their abuse, or their threats, or their lies, or their innuendo, speculations, or manufacturings, or their stalking, or harassment, or criminal harassment, or the state criminal kidnapping. Nobody investigates them. They place themselves above the law and say, prove it, at your expense. Get the fuck. Yes, people, this is really, really headed for a last resort situation. So if the Prime Minister doesn't put a Royal Commission of Inquiry on the table, you can be rest assured I'm taking this to a last resort, because I'm not doing this shit no more. Fuck this. They're not getting to murder my life and get away with it. So, it's a life and a death sentence. And I'm not going to be taking it laying down, and I'm not going to be anybody's slave trade action. Certainly not the New Zealand government's. Certainly not the New Zealand people's. They can take away your right to sue all they fucking like. They're running slavery in people's lives. They can go fuck themselves, the whole bloody lot of them. I couldn't give a shit.